Well, the federal New Democrats have just about set the stage for a leadership contest. Sources tell CBC News that party officials decided that the leadership race will begin between September 1st and September 8th, and it will end between March 22nd and March 29th, 2026, making this a 7-month contest. Those final dates also line up with the party's plans to hold its national convention in Winnipeg next year. And sources say the entrance fee for the race will be set at $100,000. So I'm going to start there with the power panel. James Moore is a former Conservative cabinet minister. Andrew Thompson is a former Saskatchewan NDP cabinet minister. And here with me in the studio, Stevie O'Brien is a former chief of staff to Liberal cabinet ministers here in Ottawa. Good to see you all. Andrew, you have the home field advantage on this one. What do you make of this move? There was a little bit of push and pull inside the party. Some wanted to get it over with, like before Christmas, to get a new leader in the minority parliament. Others wanted to wait. It seems like that wing got what they wanted. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think this recognizes that there's a lot of work ahead of a new leader, and that the party has to spend a lot of time getting its act together before that. Certainly the longer time frame will allow a broader field, I think. It'll allow a deeper set of candidates who may be wanting to take a little bit of time to get organized. Certainly the $100,000 fee is going to cause some people to be upset, but frankly, a big part of this leader's job is going to have to be getting the party's finances in order and being able to demonstrate that they can organize on the ground. So this is probably a good compromise in terms of what is needed between those who are obviously anxious to get out the gate and those who realize that there's going to be a lot of work to be done to actually get the party in order to come back.
Yeah, Stevie, I mean, the timeline is there, the entry fee is there. The direction the party needs to go right now is the thing that isn't clear, right? Like there's this polarization in the last election between Liberal and Conservative, primarily in English Canada, and they had their worst election showing ever. I mean, they've got to chart a path through whoever runs in this thing of what the New Democrats want to be come March of 2026.
Yeah, and there isn't a lot of clarity on where they're going to go, where they're going to land. There's a lot of fracturing. It's going to take a lot of work to rebuild this party. I mean, I've spent some time with the Ontario Liberals, and the rebuilding effort there after they lost party status took a couple election cycles. It's hard to find that focus and that reason, and it's going to be difficult in the next 7 months. Without a permanent leader, there's really going to be a gap in the conversations that we're having. I think there have been a lot of policies that have gone forward already that didn't get the same scrutiny from the left that they would have got if there had been a more organized or substantial NDP in place.
Yeah, I mean, James, obviously the context and the center of politics in the country shifted pretty dramatically over the past 7-8 months. I mean, where do you think the NDP fits, in this race right now? Do they need to lean into that urban progressive, go back to sort of the working class sort of focus, or chart something new? I mean, what's your view of where they are as they start this competition?
New Democrats are waiting for my advice now.
They waited till you were on, James. They wanted your way in.
Look, I've always been of the view. I mean, trying to be objective here. I've always been of the view that the most impressive argument for New Democrats is the one that was used by Alexa McDonough and borrowed and tweaked by Jack Layton in 2011, which is, we've never formed government, but we've always made a difference. And I think that if you cast ahead 12 months, 24 months, and you think, and imagine if this parliament actually lasts past Donald Trump's presidency, and I don't know that Prime Minister Carney will let that happen, but imagine if it does. By then, the whole scene will be reset. And by then, you'll have conceivably a prime minister who has made deep cuts to the federal civil service, possibly, made massive new contributions to military spending. There are a lot of people who are progressive center-left voters in this country, and I've known them out here in British Columbia, who are lifelong federal provincial New Democrats, who lent their votes to Mark Carney because they really didn't like Pierre Poilievre, and they really, really didn't like Donald Trump. And the elbows up message, the Mike Myers stuff, the Solidarity Now and Defend Canada message was really punctuated on the importance of the last election campaign. If all of that kind of gets watered down and gets and there's a gray area that's created as a consequence of some of the prime minister's decisions in the next 6 to 12 months, then I think there is a lane that could open up on the center left for somebody who has to be thoughtful and substantive. That was part of the problem that Jagmeet Singh had, frankly, is that he didn't present himself as a credible leader. He presented himself as a cool guy who wanted to be seen as a cool, hip guy. And that space was occupied by Justin Trudeau. And then Donald Trump came onto the scene and things got really serious. And a fun, cool guy is not what the Canadian voters wanted. They wanted somebody who was serious and got down to business. So I think there's a lane in the macro for New Democrats to get themselves organized, but they need to find themselves a leader who's a serious and substantive person.
Andrew, your thoughts on that, on where the party needs to be at the end of this?
So the party has a couple of very significant issues facing, and not the least of which is the fact that the number of people who currently think that they could vote New Democrat is at a historic low. If you go back to even 5 years ago, almost half the population in the country could see themselves voting NDP. Doesn't mean they were going to, but saw that as an option. Today it's fewer than 1 in 3. And I think that really is a very significant issue to wonder why has that happened. Setting aside the fact that, when Jack Layton was a leader in 2011, the NDP got 4.5 million votes. This last election, they got 1.5 million votes. That's 3 million Canadians that turned away from the NDP for some reason over that time period. Now you can say, oh, some of that's Tom Mulcair, but Tom Mulcair was still getting 3.5 million votes. So it was, something has happened that has moved the NDP to the margins of political debate. And they're going to have to figure out how to get back into the mainstream, not just into the left lane, but actually into the mainstream of issues that Canadians care about. And I think one of the challenges for the NDP, and this is certainly evident in that last few years, is that they've changed the entry point for what it means to be a New Democrat. New Democrats have always cared about the marginalized. They have always worked to bring forward equality, to deal with the racialized. They have always tried to deal with equity issues. Part of what happened, it seems, is in that last couple of years, that became not one of the issues that is a litmus test in terms of you caring about it, but you having to identify as such. You had to identify as marginalized to be able to support the NDP. You had to identify as being downtrodden to support the NDP. And that's not where most Canadians are. The vast majority of Canadians are middle class. They identify as middle class, they have middle class aspirations, and they want to be treated in that way, not returned in terms of some kind of language that says the only way you can be saved is through a 1970s social program or some kind of social welfare. So this is a fundamental change. This is going to be a huge debate within the NDP over the next several months between those who want to see a return to the mainstream of politics and those who are quite happy with, frankly, if they could get 25 seats back in a permanent minority government, would feel like that's success.